when should a landlord start taking action, and what are the indicators to identify problematic tenants? Look, so the answer is quite simple in that the most prominent answer is the fact that the tenant stops paying rent. And that indicator is, straight in the landlord's face. It's a problem that they need to be very much aware of, and they can't let slip. And when it comes to that indicator, we'll discuss a little bit later how a landlord should deal with it and the caution they should exercise in granting too many indulgences. But what are other indicators? When are there situations where maybe the tenant is paying rent, but you should be able to identify that this will be a problematic tenant? Now, the next one I would say it relates to the condition of the property. And the condition of the property, unfortunately, carries grave consequences, because if a tenant moves out and a landlord simply has 1 month deposit, if damage to the property is quite severe, 1 month's deposit is going to do very little. And the tenant can continue paying rent, but the reality is that's not going to cover you for the loss that you're going to be suffering. So it is crucial that also be an indicator. And again, as an indicator, we do have to ask the question, how do we identify these? And the identification obviously comes in the fact that there should be regular inspections over a property. The landlord should frequently visit the property and ensure that it looks like it's in order. Now, you can do this quite frequently from the outside, but there comes a time where you do have to give some notice to the tenant in order to attend the inside of the property and ensure that it is in order. So that is the second biggest risk that a landlord faces, and an indicator that the landlord should be very, very careful. And again, like I said, we'll discuss just now on the action steps that need to be followed in such circumstances. The third one relates to tenant behavior. And by this, I mean the tenant's engagement with the landlord, the amount of respect the tenant has for the landlord or not, the amount of respect the tenant has for the landlord's rules, conduct rules specifically. Sometimes you find that a body corporate has certain conduct rules that one expects the tenant to abide by. And sometimes the landlord has their own specific conduct rules that the tenant is supposed to abide by. The tenant's behavior in relation to these rules are also crucial, because if the tenant cannot adhere to these rules, the chances are there are going to be bigger problems down the line. And this, again, we experience quite frequently with loud noises, nuisances, fights with other with neighbors, as an example, parking in the incorrect spots when they're supposed to park, refusal to pay fines to body corporates if they do something wrong. As soon as this starts happening, you know, unfortunately, that it's going down a very dangerous path, because from this point on, anything can happen. There could be issues with the condition of the property, where there's damage to the property, because, let's be fair, the tenant is being disrespectful of the landlord's property and his rules. So what stops him from one day refusing to pay rent over a trivial issue, or for example, damaging the property? So this is also another indicator. If the tenant's behavior dictates that they are disrespectful or disregarding of landlord interest, you either need to bring this behavior into control, or you need to act on it, which normally comprises some kind of breach of the agreement and a notice that needs to be given. So in my mind, these are the top three. There are obviously other ones, but I would say that if a landlord just wants to identify the issues, these are probably the most prominent indicators.